Alright, cool beans. Hope you guys did enjoy that small montage. I'm Hex. I'm going to be going over my updated MagWarden build for the Scribes of Fate patch. Honestly, I'm just going to say this is probably the easiest and cheesiest MagWarden build I had ever made. Like, this build just does so much damage for doing very little on your rotation. You set and forget your dots, just play defensive, and you will honestly start ticking people down. It's crazy. This is honestly a true pug destroyer build. And Sweat, you can't kill them, they can't kill you, but you can pressure them. But how exactly do we get this build in order? Stick around to the end and I'll show you exactly how. But before we get started, you can hit the subscribe and like button. Really does go a long way and I greatly do appreciate it. Also leave a comment what video I should do next. But without further ado, let's shock our way into the build. Alright, so for the first skill we do run is honestly our flex spot. I prefer Fetcher Infection, a really good dot, but the main thing is, while the dot is up, it puts minor vuln for the whole duration. But obviously, if you prefer that one skill, Crystallized Slap, either one is fine. Next skill we do run is Bird of Prey. This is basically our snare immunity that just happens to grant Major Expedition and minor Berserk while slotted. Next skill we do run is Lotus Blossom. This is how we get our 12% crit on this build. When you activate the skill, you get 12% crit for 1 minute. Yeah, it's a pretty cool skill, and this thing is dirt cheap. 900 mag on this build for 60-second duration. Yeah, and the reason it's on the front bar is, well, because these skills kind of need to be on the back bar. Next skill we do run is Deep Fissure. This is honestly the bread and butter burst for a Warden. Stir up some stalks. After 3 seconds, they come out of the ground and do some pretty sizable damage. The Resurface actually does more damage. See, the initial one does 7,300 damage. This is unbuffed, by the way, and the Resurface does over 10k, so it actually does like about 33% more damage. But the main thing, whether or not you hit them with the Resurface or the initial hit, they are inflicted with major and minor breach, reducing their armor. Next skill we do run is Frost Reach. This is basically our spammable. Does an alright size amount of damage up front, plus a nice dot, but the main thing is, enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with the chilled status effect. So if you have an Ice Staff equipped, which we do have, and you put chilled, you put minor brittle on the target, increasing their damage taken from crits by 10%. Next skill we do run is obviously Dawnbreaker Smiting. This is our big hitting ultimate. It'll do a lot of damage in the cone in front of us, stunning the targets, and if they're able to tell the tail of the Dawnbreaker, well, that dot for sure gonna put them down. You can either run that, or you could run, you know, Shooting Star or Ice Comet. I prefer Shooting Star, but if you want to run Ice Comet, go ahead. And for the back bar, we do run Ice Fortress. This is basically our armor buff that also happens to grant minor protection. Next skill we do run is Blockade of Frost. I know they got rid of the root from this, but honestly, I think, in my opinion, I think the snare is better, because with the root, all you have to do is roll dodge it and it's gone. The thing about a snare, it's there for the whole duration until you purify yourself, either with the snare immunity skill or purify. I guarantee you over 80% of pugs do not know how to purge a snare. They don't even know what a snare is. So honestly, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit better. I prefer this morph, the one that lasts longer and does like a bigger AoE. You could run the other morph, but I prefer this one. And it also synergizes very well with one of our arena weapons, which we'll talk about when we go over the sets. Next skill we do run is Resolving Vigor. This is obviously our burst hop. Heal a lot over 5 seconds and grants us minor resolve. And the next skill we do run is Blue Betty. This is how we get our 20% weapon and spell damage buff. And it also does restore a lot of mag over 25 seconds. And it also purifies us every time we cast this and every 5 seconds afterwards. And it's free, like, why not? It just has to be free. Next skill we do run is Polar Wind. I prefer this morph on this build since our spell damage isn't the highest, since we are spec more into Bloodthirsty and proc damage. Heals us a lot more, and it puts that nice little hot on us that can also heal an ally. But the other one, you do have the stun with the other morph, so either one is fine, but honestly I find Polar Wind I had more success with. And for our back bar ultimate, we do have Northern Storm. It can do a sizable amount of damage, it snares them, and it also grants us 300 weapon and spell damage for 30 seconds. And on top of that, major protection while it's up. Pretty potent skill. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go over the stat sheets. Alright, so for our fully proc max stats, our max mag is over 27.8k, max health over 30. Actually, that's not even fully procced, actually. Hold up. Look at that. Max health over 36.2k, and our max damage is over 17k. And our recup's fully buffed. Look at that. Mag recup over 1575, and our stam recup is almost at 1300. Wow. And our spell damage fully buffed. Spell damage fully buffed is at over 4100. Spell crit over 38%. Really, really nice. Our penetration is over 6700. This actually can go up since we do have access to major and minor breach, which is basically over 9k penetration. Now let's check our resist on our back bar real quick. Look at that. Spell resist over 32.7k. Physical resist over 28.2k, and our crit resist at 1940. Now for the attributes, we do have 34 points in the mag and 30 points in the health. Honestly, if you want, you could put like 10 or 20 more points in the Magicka, honestly, because we are running death dealers, so it doesn't really matter. For the food we do run is Orzhkov's Smoke Bear Haunch. Grants us a lot of max health and recover everything, but obviously Jewels and Mistral perfectly fine. For the abundance, we do run the Thief. Honestly, if you know me, you know that I love crit. 6% chance to increase our healing and our damage done. Just so much pressure when we crit all our damage, just a lot of pressure on the target. And obviously we are a stage 3 vampire for one simple passive, Undeath. The lower health we are, the tankier we become. And for my race, I am a Breton. Honestly, in my opinion, Breton is hands down the best sustain race for open world mag builds. We do have Gift of Magnus, increases our max mag by 2k. Spell Attunement increases our spell resist by over 2300. Which can double if we're afflicted with Burning, Chilled, or Concussed, which is basically all the time because of all the LE sus and mag DKs running around. And if that wasn't enough, a passive on top of a passive. Just 130 mag recup for free, here you go. And obviously the best of them all, Magicka Mastery. Reduces the Magicka cost of all our abilities by 7%. Some great alternatives. Khajiit could be pretty good. We are high in crit. High elf could be okay. Dark elf could be okay. We kind of do need the sustain from Breton, in my opinion. Everything else I'd kind of stay away from, to be honest. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go over the sets now. Alright, so for the monster set we do run, honestly, there are two options. The main option I would recommend is Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn is such a fun monster set to run. And it's especially good when you don't have market on a build. 1 piece stam recup, every build can use stam recup. 2 piece, being able to generate 13 ultimate and increase our armor by over 3700. That is insane. The amount of Dawnbreaker spam I was able to do was so much fun, and I was super tanky on top of it. But if you want to be a cheese warden, then you could put on Zons. Honestly, Zons was pretty cheesy and really fun to run around with. But honestly, I've had better success with Bloodspawn. Or you could slap on Balors, obviously. So on this build, we actually do run 2-piece training. Now you might be asking why 2-piece training? Because we do have 2 slots available on this build, so why not slot training? 1 piece gives us max health, and the 2 piece gives us max mag. The most max mag and max health you can get from a 2-piece. We also do run a mythic, and that mythic is Death Dealer's Feet. On this build, Death Dealers was honestly really nice on this build, since Wardens do have access to minor toughness, 10% more max health. This actually synergized well. What exactly does Death Dealers do for those that don't know? Every 2 seconds while you are in combat, you get a stack, increasing your mag and stam by 88, up to a max of 30 stacks. That is over 2600 health, magicka, and stamina we're getting from this mythic. We couldn't run market with this build, unfortunately, so this was the better alternative too. Gives us a good amount of damage and just more health for survivability. Really good. But if you want more damage, then you could obviously slot on Sea Serpent's Coil. The only problem is that snare is pretty noticeable. So we do run a 5-piece on this build, and that 5-piece is Ice Furnace. Ice Furnace is really good on this build. 5-piece. When you deal frost damage, you deal X amount of flame damage. This is unbuffed, by the way. This is unbuffed. We can spike this up crazy amounts, which I'll get over in a little bit, to all enemies within 8 meters around the initial target with a 1-second cooldown. Yes, that is pretty crazy. So you're just constantly doing a lot of pressure on a target. It's good cleave, and it also does flame damage to proc the burning status effect to hurt them even more. So on this build, we actually do run 2 arena weapons. For the front bar arena weapon, we do run the Master's Perfected Ice Staff. Obviously, if you don't have Perfected, it's perfectly fine. The only thing that the Perfected version does is it grants 103 weapon and spell damage. That's it. Whether it's Perfected or non-Perfected, the main thing, reduces the cost of Destructive Touch by 10%, it increases our weapon and spell damage by 600 for 4 seconds after activating it. Yeah, this thing gives us a ridiculous amount of weapon and spell damage. And for the last arena weapon we do run the Maelstrom's Perfected Ice Staff. Once again, it does not have to be perfected. Non-perfected is perfectly fine. What the perfected version does on this build, increases our offense penetration by almost 1200. Increases the damage wall elements deals by 1250. It can do a lot of damage, especially against pugs that just stand there and don't even know what's going on. To put that in comparison, the Master's Dual Wield does about 800 damage every second, because it ticks every 2 seconds for 1635. This one ticks for 1250 every second. Really good for just slaying pugs and actually pressuring sweats. So the way we do run it, so for the front bar, obviously the Master's Perfected Ice Staff, non-perfected, perfectly fine, with poisons. The spell crit poisons that increase our spell crit by 6% and reduce the enemy weapon and spell crit by 6%. You know me and you know that I love crit. And on the trait, we do run Sharpened because in PvP, penetration is keen. For the back bar, we do run the Maelstrom's Perfected Ice Staff. Once again, non-perfected, perfectly fine, with a poison damage enchant. The reason we run the poison damage enchant is because it can proc the poison status effect, which puts a poison dot on them. Since we already do flame damage with Ice Furnace, we can already proc burning from that. And obviously defending because tankiness is next to godliness. And for the body, we do run the typical 3-3-1, 3 heavy, 3 light, 1 medium. So we do run a medium Bloodspot head, heavy chest of Ice Furnace, light shoulders of Bloodspawn, light sash and gloves of the training, and heavy legs and feet of the Ice Furnace. And for the enchants, if you can, trash that all the pieces. If you can't do that, trash that the big pieces. What I mean by that is head, chest, and legs. And if you can't do that, max mag's perfectly fine. Just adjust your health attributes at the end. And for the jewelry, we do run an Ice Furnace neck and ring. And for my last ring, I do run the Death Dealer's ring. Obviously because it only comes in a ring, duh. So for the traits, all bloodthirsty, 2 with reduced mag cost, and 1 weapon and spell damage enchant that also grants mag recoup. Obviously if it comes with stam recoup, wouldn't make or break the build. Bloodthirsty, since Wardens don't have an execute, Bloodthirsty can actually start taking people down, and you can actually hit some ridiculous dawn breakers when they're low health. But if you are feeling like you are having more sustain issues, then you could obviously go a 3rd reduced mag cost on here. Perfectly fine. But if you're saying, nah, Hex, I want more damage, I'm really good at this game, then obviously you could slot a 2nd weapon and spell damage enchant. So for the food we do run, good old Orzhov Smoke Bear Haunch. Gives us a lot of max health and recover everything. But obviously if this is too expensive, Jewels of Mistral, perfectly fine. And for the pots we do run, just good old Crown Tripods. Gives us a burst of everything and recover everything. Really good. You can either craft them yourself or the Crown Tripods work perfectly fine. But if you got deep pocket or don't mind spending a little extra, then you could run the minor heroism pots. Basically where you sacrifice the health and get minor heroism. The only problem is those things are very, very pricey. On Xbox NA, I believe they're like 4K a Dragon Room maybe, last time I checked. Alright, but enough of that, let's go to the CP now. Alright, so for the blue CP, we do run Fighting Finesse, increase critical damage, critical healing, Focus Mending, increase our healing done with single target heals, Master at Arms, increases your damage done with direct damage attacks. And for the last CP we do run is Ironclad, reduces our damage taken from direct damage attacks. And for the red CP, typical standards, Seal of Approval red Hex CP, Celerity, increases our movement speed by 10%, honestly in my opinion the best CP in the entire game. Survival Instincts, while afflicted with the status effect, our core combat skills cost up to 25% less. Relentlessness, being stunned or fear causes to gain major protection for 3 seconds. And Pain's Refuge, the more negative effects we have active on us, the tankier we become. And for the green CP, doesn't ever really matter. Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and Steve's Blessing. But alright, cool beans, that's the build. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Honestly, this is probably one of the easiest, cheesiest builds I have ever made. Like, if you ever wanted to cheese people down, honestly, this is the build. Like, you literally just set and forget, and it's just so easy. You just play defensive, set and forget, and you will actually start taking people down when they don't realize it. And then you can turn and burn with the Dawnbreaker of Dream. Honestly, this build was actually kind of fun. Magden, is it the best? No. But with this build, you can actually just start annoying your opponents and actually pressure a lot of pugs out. But as always, hope you guys did enjoy the build video. Like the video if you liked it. Comment your thoughts and experience with the build. Also, anything I might have missed out, what video I should do next. Subscribe for more. But most importantly, stay Zerging.